It's a Festivus miracle. Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Zareth Prevails. Today we're going to talk about what to farm next. We do this video about once a month because CG has released a lot of stuff every single month, especially lately, and trying to stay on top of it is fairly important. So, huge shout out to my patrons. By the way, real quick, you guys are amazing. I couldn't do this without you. Seriously, guys, you mean the world to me. Thank you guys so much for everything. And if you want to support this channel for free, folks, all you gotta do is hit that thumbs up button, like, subscribe, comment. Let's mount the algorithm. Going into the new year, the algorithm's going to favor the ones that mount it the most. I heard somewhere. I read it in a book by Abraham Lincoln, probably. It said that, probably. So, what's the goal of this series? The goal is to get as much stuff as we can. Part of the joy of this game is planning our accounts and rosters and trying to resource allocate the way we need to. So getting as much stuff as we can, being able to do as many events as possible and do it within the right time frames. We also want to stay relevant. The fight that I always have with people is people are like, it's not efficient. We have to be efficient, and that's I like efficiency well enough. The problem is efficiency doesn't always equal effectiveness. Not always. Like, you can farm something for one character very efficiently, but how much good is that character actually going to do you, as opposed to farming a character inefficiently, like a new character that's not that doesn't have the double drops or whatever. Yeah, it's slower, but that character's probably going to do you more good in the long run, right? So be efficient when it's feasible, but stay relevant. We want to keep those characters as relevant as possible as well. So there's a lot of different game modes. The ones that are most important right now still are the current raid, Fleet Arena, and everything else. It comes after those two, because you get your crystals from Fleet Arena, and the current raid is where you get all of your awesome stuff. Of course, if you're just going to free ride in your guild, I guess the raid comes at a distant level of priority. But Fleet Arena, it keeps changing, folks. I think they fixed it a little bit, at least. Of course, the top three fleets are, as always, Leviathan, Profundity, and Executor. Profundity went down another notch, unfortunately, because the fix that they instituted on the Leviathan mirror match is suddenly palatable again, which is cool if you have Leviathan. And I was kind of sad, like they used Scimitar to make that mirror match better, and it is better. It is. The problem with it is, well, it's not a problem. I don't know. People are feeling a little frustrated because the Sith Assassin ship, the Sith Fighter, was not part of that solution. It has been cut out. Everyone who put Relic 8 or Relic 9 on their Sith Assassin, first off, did that against my advice, so there is that. But also, it's just, it sucks because people invested, and now it's a worthless investment because that character is also worthless, I'm sorry to say. Chimera counter still not really working right now. Negotiator does some cool stuff, of course, but Profundity no longer is capable of beating the Leviathan, at least not if Scimitar comes in right away. In fact, even if Scimitar is the only reinforcement, Profundity still loses. It's wild. So pretty sad state of affairs for ships, but that's what it is. So if you want to farm stuff, get the new Punishing One ship. That's actually farmable now. Go farm it. I don't know if I even wrote that down in this video. So just I hope you had the volume on, guys. So the current raid, we'll have to see, guys. we're all starting to get a little bit nervous or skittish or something about. CG hasn't announced anything about the new raid. They've given us no information whatsoever, and we just don't really know what's next. I know that we had collectively all thought that we're going to get a Peridia raid, and next, because that's all the characters and stuff that they've been releasing, but they've released all the characters. We don't have any Omicrons for the raid available for any of them, so it would appear that we're going to get passed by. Like, maybe we'll have some kind of like a Bad Batch raid or something. I know that Calvin has talked about that a little bit, so I suppose we'll see. We're still a couple months out. It seems like sometime in February is when, if they follow the pattern that they even said that they were going to follow, then it would be somewhere around February that we get the new raid, which seems like they're going to have to make an announcement kind of soon, one way or another. So, anyways, we've got here's what we could do for. Hold on. Sorry about that. Here's what we could be doing for the next raid. The last raid, you can watch the last video if you want to find the current raid comps. But one way or another, I mean, these are all potential raid comps. Obviously, we have no idea what the new raid's going to be. But, I mean, it seems like we have fertile ground for using all the new teams that CG would really want us to be spending money on and prioritizing, and how better to do that than to force us to do those things by giving us a raid for the Peridia, or at least this group. Whether or not they choose to do it, maybe we'll have like a whale farming raid where we just kill Purgle in droves of hundreds and thousands, or maybe not. I'm curious to see what's gonna happen, honestly, guys. One thing that I thought was interesting was the idea that maybe Zeb is actually going to get an Omicron. Maybe he's going to have the raid Omicron that is missing from the team. Because if you look at Hera's kit, I mean, when she's lead, of course, for some of the stuff, but even her unique touches on, like, why are they including Zeb specifically here? It's an interesting thing, like Spectre allies and Zeb. Spectre allies and Zeb. When Zeb does things, then such and such. Like, maybe it's just them doing things like Chrysanthemum in the lore goes with Aphra. And that's great. They give a nod to Chrysanthemum in her kit, and he's not that usable with Aphra. That's fine. Maybe that's what they're doing with Zeb, and I like it when they do that. Honestly, that's a cool thing. That's a nod to the lore, and then they move on to like the intended teams. That maybe that's what it is, but it seems like Zeb is in her kit a little too often for it to just be a single nod. Maybe that's what it is, but if he's given a raid Omicron, then that would solve the mystery of why don't any of the new characters have a raid Omicron. Of course, that's just a theory, but it's just something to think about. So, in terms of staying relevant, this slide stayed the same, folks. The territory battle hasn't gotten any updates for a while, which is honestly fine by me. I don't want anything new for a little bit, at least. I'm sure we're going to get new nodes and new things eventually, but for now, I love that they gave us a bunch of sims and have not given us a bunch of extra territory battle chores to do. The new assault battles, this slide has stayed the same as well, but for the most part, I mean, it stayed the same because the equation hasn't really changed. Of course, there's 2 new assault battles, and you get some really nice rewards at the end. You can get droid brains, you can get the gear to keypads, and with the new one, the latest one with the zombie troopers, you could actually get Omicrons for the final tier as well, 1/3 of the time. But it's still pretty good, and I would say, though, that's the one that's the toughest to do, because the three characters that you get, the three zombie troopers, are all decent, but it doesn't seem to be that rewarding to get all of them to Relic 9 unless you're an end game player and you kind of spend money on the game. It doesn't seem like it's going to be worthwhile. Probably getting them to Relic 7 is good. You have to get them to 7 anyways for eventually unlocking Ahsoka, Galactic Legend Ahsoka, so not a terrible investment early on. I would say for newer accounts, for younger accounts, prioritizing Qui-Gon and Padawan Obi-Wan is going to be the better investment, just because they're really good early on. They're part of a lot of bigger teams. Like, you can put them with a ton of different Galactic Legend or Galactic Republic, I should say, or just various Jedi teams early on and mid-game and later. You don't need Queen Amidala to make it work, and it's only 2 characters, and like it's just a better purchase. So you can get Relic 9 on the zombie troopers if you want. I would say they should be kind of a priority. Like, you should be working toward that, just because the assault battle has really strong rewards that you don't want to miss month to month. But don't break the bank. I mean, my alt account, my smallest account, is just doing 5 attempts a day. So it's going to get there over the course of, like 2 or 3 months. It takes a while to get them all farmed, and then of course you have to put some relics on them, but it just takes a while. So yeah, the Padawan Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon one definitely is the first priority. So Baylan is here, and it seems like we're actually getting closer to it. I think I saw something that said we'd been 53 days since he was unlocked, which kind of surprised me. I didn't think it had been that long ago, but one way or another, I think he was at the end of October, which I guess makes sense, since it's, the 23rd of December. So I like Baylan a lot because he's not broken. He's pretty decent. Of course, he counters Leia, it seems like, pretty consistently. He is kind of a luxury character in a lot of ways. Like, he's going to be about as good as Bo-Katan, like countering some Galactic Legends, struggling against others. Just kind of a good utility legendary character. The cool thing about him is he requires a couple Night Sisters and a couple mercenaries, and then you can fill in his mercenary team with other mercenaries that you already have on your roster, and the Night Sisters team you can fill in with Night Sisters that you already have on your roster. And the Night Sisters team happens to be really strong in a lot of different places, like territory battles. They're really good, and they're really good in GAC. Obviously, even without their datacrons, they're going to be really strong, and the Baylan squad's going to be pretty good, and you can farm all of it right now. Yes, I realized that we don't have the accelerated farm on all the new characters. This is part of the discussion that I started earlier by saying being efficient doesn't necessarily equal being effective. And so the projected next unlock date would be somewhere around January 30th for him. So we've still got a little over a month, but get cracking, folks. By which I don't mean you don't have to kraken out. You don't have to whale out even. Just farm your characters. He's a good character to be targeting, I think, for a lot of different levels of gameplay. Galactic Legend Ahsoka Tano is a little bit unapproachable for people who don't spend money or don't have an enormous saved cache of crystals, because Sabine, Huyang, and Hera, none of them are actually farmable currently. Galactic Legend Ahsoka Tano is just off limits right now. Hera won't be farmable until somewhere around February, early February, but still, you can't even start working on the final requirement for Ahsoka for another month, at least. And so she's good. She is good, but she's not unbeatable. There are other teams that do beat her, and you can't get her for till March or maybe April, even if you've been very dedicated to farming them, even if you've been farming, doing refreshes and trying to get all of the stuff done. You can't get her until sometime sometime in the next quarter or something. Maybe that's dramatic sounding of me, but it's a lot, man. It's a long time to be without a galactic legend. That she's been announced for months. We're still gonna be waiting for months and months to actually unlock her. Is she worth it? Yeah, I think so. She's gonna be a really strong galactic legend. Right now, there's actually not incentive to get her other than her overt power. Like Jabba, you have good incentive to get him because he has Smuggler's Run too as an incentive, as an exclusive event. He has a bunch of nodes in Rise of the Empire territory battles. He is also just a strong character. There's a ton of reasons to get him. Leia has the Endor escalation, which gets us a couple, like she gets us half of an Omicron per year just for having her, which is not really the greatest reason to get her, but she was also part of a raid, and so was Jabba, and so but Ahsoka doesn't have any of those. Right now, she has 0 events that require her. She has 0 nodes in territory battle that help her. There's nothing right now other than her being powerful. And so there's not a ton of reason, because she's also not so powerful that nothing can beat her. There are a ton of stuff that can beat her, apparently. So yes, she has a datacron and all that. Yes, she's going to be strong. She's going to be an issue trying to beat her in GAC. Of course she is, just like Leia is, just like Jabba was, just like Jedi Master Kenobi. All the galactic legends when they first came out were huge issues, and so yes, she's going to be that problem. I don't think she's going to be more of a problem than other galactic legends, though. We can solve it and move around it, so we could be content and bide our time. Speaking of Rey, well, we weren't talking about her, but she looks pretty good. I think I had this slide in the last one, but she's pretty important, guys. Yeah, I would maybe slack on a different Conquest character, honestly. And then so to kind of summarize, I know that we can't summarize every single part of what I just said, but what are we going to be working on? What's the priority? Of course, to me, the raid is going to be paramount importance, because that's where we get all our resources, and that's how you kind of keep up. Like, that's the biggest part of this rat race of this game. For better or worse, that's what it is. And so the awesome part is working on the current raid characters. I would say, like, just pump the brakes, maybe stop. Like, if you haven't made substantial progress in unlocking Jar Jar, maybe just don't ever unlock Jar Jar. I don't know. It's just me, but it seems like a pretty luxury squad at this point. And so one way or another, the new twist is work on the new characters, because in my opinion, it seems like they're the ones who are going to be in the next raid. Of course, that we could be wrong, and we've already discussed why we may not, we may need to swerve into working on something else, but one way or another, the new, for raid characters, a lot of the times right now, it's synonymous with also getting your unlock characters for Baylan and Ahsoka. So Baylan is currently farmable. Galactic Legend Ahsoka Tano is not currently farmable unless, like I said, you have a huge crystal stash or you have money. In which case, I mean, feel free. Obviously, she's a great character for sure. The team is really strong, etc. But for most players, I think Baylan is the guy to be trying for. Honestly, I don't know if he's going to be required for anything. So far, all the newest legendary characters that they've released around this time of year have not been actually required for anything. Like Starkiller isn't required for anything. Or is he now? I don't think so. Afra is not. What's her name? Bo-Katan is not. And so we'll have to see if Baylan is. But one way or another, it seems like he's going to be a fairly useful fellow. And he comes with 2 really great other characters in the form of the Morgan and Grey Mothers. And so Seems like that's why we want to be working on them. The zombie troopers actually fit into that Night Sister squad really nicely, even if you don't have other Imperial remnants, and they happen to also be required for the new assault battle. So all these new characters are really helpful, and you have a lot of good incentive for working on them. And then if you want some kind of a stretch goal, something looking into the future, the only real insight into the future that we have currently is that we're going to get Bad Batch characters of some sort, and they're going to help you in some way eventually. How that's going to happen, we don't really know. But one way or another, guys, let me know what your thoughts are. What are you going to farm? Thank you guys so much for watching. And remember that in all things, Xerath prevails. Take care, folks. Happy holidays.